What's up, y'all? This is Kamo Katfish. Today I felt like talking about the Second Amendment, and I did a little research on it and wrote down a few notes here. And I'm just going to start off by reading exactly what the Second Amendment states. All right, it was ratified December 15th, 1791. The Second Amendment states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I went back and looked up the definition of a few words that I believe are key in the Second Amendment. First of all, I've got militia. A militia is a military force that is raised from the civil population to supplement a regular army in an emergency. It's also a military force that engages in rebel or terrorist activities in opposition to a regular army. All able-bodied civilians eligible by law for military service. All right, and then I wrote down the definition of arms. The definition of arms is weapons and ammunition, armaments. All right, so notice there, it's not just about the guns, people. It's the guns and the ammunition. It's the firearms and the ammunition. It's the weapons and ammunition. It's not just the guns. And then I've got the definition of infringe. To actively break the terms of, in parentheses, a law, agreement, etc. So, in 2008, the Supreme Court in the District of Columbia v. Heller affirmed that the right belongs to individuals for self-defense in the home, which, I mean, to me, that's that's a given. If we're in my house, I have the right to defend myself. This is my house. This is my home. These are my belongings. This is my family. This is my life. In my house, absolutely, I have the right to defend all that stuff. They also ruled that the right is not unlimited. Now, here's where my opinion comes into play. Where in the Second Amendment or the Constitution did the Supreme Court find that the right is not unlimited? I mean, I just read y'all the Second Amendment. That nowhere in there are there any words or wordings that say that right is limited to anything. I didn't gather any of that from the Second Amendment, but the Supreme Court in 2008 ruled that it's not unlimited. Also, that you're not allowed to carry firearms in sensitive places like schools or government buildings. Once again, where did the Supreme Court, find that that you're not supposed to carry firearms in sensitive places like schools or government buildings? Not one of those are listed in the Second Amendment as a sensitive place. It's just slowly chipping away at freedom is what that is, in my opinion. All right, it says no felons or mentally ill can have guns, and in the 2008 ruling. Now, that is something I personally agree with. Sure, I don't think felons or mentally ill people should have firearms, but guess what? It's not up to me. And the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about excluding certain American citizens from this right. So, once again, how did the court come to that ruling? All right, and then here's the best one, in my opinion, on this 2008 District of Columbia v. Heller case. They put restrictions, or affirmed that there are restrictions on the carrying of dangerous and unusual weapons. All right, that's my favorite one. Now, check this out. So, if we're talking about weapons, okay, of course it's dangerous. It's a weapon. every weapon is dangerous. So they ruled that there's restrictions on the carrying of, let's just go with this part, dangerous weapons. So they can just put restrictions on whatever weapon they deem dangerous, or whatever somebody's opinion of a dangerous weapon may be, that's restricted now. See, that's a slippery slope, folks. Every weapon's dangerous. All right, and then the unusual part, that's goofy too. So they put restrictions on carrying of unusual weapons. Well, who's to say what's usual and unusual as far as a weapon? Okay, we here in 2020 America, in my opinion, carrying around a samurai sword would be an unusual weapon, wouldn't it, folks? But samurai swords aren't illegal, are they? I mean, what's unusual? Nunchucks, throwing stars, tasers. Would tasers be unusual weapons? See, where's the black and white dividing line on unusual? I don't like that. See, it's just these nebulous rulings that any lower court could take any way they feel like, and I don't like that. I don't like that stuff. So yeah, dangerous weapons. Well, they're all dangerous. Unusual weapons. Who's to say what's usual and unusual? The left, for years has been pushing to get rid of the AR-15s, the assault rifles, which, by the way, folks, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but if you didn't, AR stands for Armalite Rifle. Armalite was the the company who designed that rifle platform, commonly known as the AR-15. It doesn't stand for assault rifle. That's a term coined by the left to make it sound scary. Play right into their hand. You know what I mean? And the AR-15 is the most common rifle platform in the United States of America, and they've been pushing to get rid of that for years. So as far as unusual, well, that's the most usual weapon in America. So that wouldn't fall under this 2008 ruling, would it? But we got to get rid of these weapons of war, these evil weapons of war, black scary rifles, right? That's what they've been pushing for years. It's not going to happen, folks. It's not going to happen. All right, and then in 2010, check this out. The Supreme Court ruled in McDonald versus the City of Chicago that state and local governments are limited to the same extent as the federal government from infringing upon this right being the Second Amendment, which means your state's rights, yeah, I get it and all, but as far as it coming down to the Second Amendment or the Constitution, specifically this right, the Second Amendment, state and local governments, I don't care what municipality you are, you're held to the same standard that the federal government is as far as infringing on people's right to keep and bear arms. So all these, that's where it loses me right there, folks, is how can these states like California and New York get away with all these ridiculous gun laws? I was on Parler just last night, and I read a story about a lady in New York City. The cops, the NYPD, raided her apartment and confiscated 21 guns. All right, just wait for it. 21 guns from this lady's apartment and arrested her. And she's still waiting a trial that she could be found guilty in with a maximum penalty of 25 years in prison. Now, these guns that these just heroic police officers in New York City confiscated from this lady were airsoft guns. airsoft guns. See, how is that legal in the Constitution? Under the Constitution? How is that legal for that city, that jurisdiction, that small jurisdiction, to act differently about the Second Amendment than the federal government should act? See, airsoft guns, as far as I know, are legal in like every other state. But this lady is looking at 25 years in prison for 21 airsoft guns in New York City. Now, how's that? It's crazy, folks. It's crazy. Anyway, moving on. Let's see here. All right, now I went and looked at the oath of enlistment. All right, and this is going to come into play later whenever I really just like give my discourse, my opinion on all of this. All right, so I wrote down the oath of enlistment. The oath of enlistment to join the military goes like this. I state the name of enlistee, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. All right, and something I just wanted to point out there is surely the author of this oath of enlistment thought about this when he was writing it. It kind of states out, you know, the order of let's see, the order of importance as we go down through this oath. First of all, it says, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Number one, first and foremost. It doesn't say anything about your officers appointed ahead of you or the UCMJ or the president. First and foremost, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. All right, then secondly, it talks about, I will obey the orders of the President of the United States. All right, and then number three, it states that you'll obey the orders of the officers appointed over you. And then number four, at the very bottom, it says, according to the regulations of the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. All right, so there's kind of an order of importance in what you're swearing allegiance to when you join the military, whenever you go through this oath of enlistment. Anyway, I just wrote out my opinion on this whole subject, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you, and then we'll kind of we'll say a few closing words after I read this. But this is my general opinion of the entire Second Amendment and what's going on in our country today. So the Second Amendment was not put in place to secure the right to hunt, to participate in shooting sports, or simply protect life and or property from criminals. It was put in place to secure the right of the people to defend the security of a free state. It says that a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. It says the right of the people, or the citizens of the free state, to keep or have and bear, hold and use arms, which is firearms and ammunition, shall not be infringed or tampered with. There are no stipulations on this amendment. It doesn't say anything about handguns or rifles, lever action or bolt action, fully automatic or semi-automatic, hunting rifles, or weapons of war. I can hunt hogs with what some may consider a weapon of war. And trust me, I can fight a war just fine with a 30-06. It doesn't say anything about background checks. It doesn't say anything about registering your arms. It doesn't say anything about paying a tax to purchase a license from the government to access this right. It doesn't say anything about an age restriction on this right. If I want to hand my 9-year-old son a .22 rifle and turn him loose on my property to hunt squirrels, that's completely legal per the Second Amendment. And that should be up to me, his father, not Big Daddy government. If the military was to ever be told to go door to door and confiscate firearms of any kind from American citizens, they should not obey or enforce those orders, because they swore first and foremost that they would support and defend the Constitution of the United States. If any president were to sign an executive order stating to confiscate firearms from American citizens, he would be going directly against the Constitution that he swore to uphold. In that case, I don't see how he couldn't be considered a domestic enemy of a free state. Though one could argue that militias as a whole have become generally unregulated, which I would have to agree with, this lack of regulation could not negate the right of the people to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment says nothing about the people or citizens being required to be in a militia to access this right. All right, in closing, the writers of the Bill of Rights did not leave this document open to interpretation. If you simply read it word for word, definition by definition, it's abundantly clear that the right of any American to own and use firearms should not be taken away, regulated, or diminished in any way, period, end of subject. And then, guys, I went back just a few minutes ago, actually, and looked into the 1803 Supreme Court case, Marbury versus Madison. All right, it was presided over by Chief Justice John Marshall, and he wrote this: "A law repugnant to the Constitution is void, and that courts as well as other departments are bound by that instrument." So folks, all these gun laws that the left and our government in general are trying to push are absolutely unconstitutional and repugnant to the Constitution, and should be null and void. There's a serious problem in our country today, folks. Our rights are being taken away slowly and surely, and the fact is, they're doing it right in front of our faces, because they know that people nowadays don't know the history of our country and how this country was formed. People nowadays don't care about Supreme Court cases from the 1800s. They know the vast majority of American citizens aren't going to go back and research this stuff. That's why I want to go back and do all this research and put it out here on YouTube or Rumble or Parler or wherever. That, just to spread the word, guys, because the government knows that y'all aren't out there researching this stuff. They know you don't know your history, and they know that the vast majority of Americans nowadays just flat out don't care. And that's why the government nowadays is able to get away with the absolutely repugnant stuff that they're doing to our nation right in front of our faces. So guys, pay attention to what's going on. All these gun laws, all these red flag laws, all the way down to simply having to pay money to have a concealed carry permit. It's just flat out unconstitutional, folks. It's ridiculous. Stop letting the government get away with this stuff. Stop letting the government slowly chip away at your freedom. Because the freedoms that you had 40, 50 years ago, we don't have anymore. What's it going to look like for your grandkids here in another 40 or 50 years? Are they going to have any of the rights that we enjoyed as kids? Not if it keeps going the way it's going. Wake up, folks. Pay attention. Fight against this stuff. Thanks for watching. Share and like and subscribe. And follow me on Parler, Kamo Katfish. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.